Hello and welcome. On behalf of ImpactAustin, my name is Ashley Olinghouse, and I'd like to welcome you to the Corporate Social Responsibility Panel, part of our Discovery Days 2021 series. Before I introduce our speakers, a little more about me. I work for Your Cause, a Blackbaud company, where we partner with companies and foundations to strengthen and grow their philanthropic programs to maximize organizational impact. I'd like to thank our Discovery Days sponsors who make this event possible. C2C Media and Doten Realtors. Those who are not familiar, ImpactAustin is a local collective women's philanthropy group, one open to any female identifying folks who want to pool their resources to make a bigger impact in our community. To date, one member at a time, we have donated over $7.44 million to Central Texas nonprofits. Thank you to our past and current members. We hope many of you will join us. Check out ImpactAustin for membership details or just ask me. If cost is a barrier and you are interested in being involved, please reach out to us and we'll find a way to make it happen. Also, please note the active Q&A for any questions that you may have during this session. Our team will keep an eye on those and we'll do our best to answer them during this session. We are recording today's session, so you will be able to reference it after today. We'll post the video on our Discovery Days webpage. Ladies, welcome. Everyone looks great in their red, supporting the Heart Association's Go Red for Women National Wear Red Day. To start, if you would, please introduce yourselves to our audience. And Erika, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Ashley. Hi, everyone. My name is Erika Chan. I work for Dell Technologies on our corporate sustainability team, which is part of our broader corporate social responsibility team. I work specifically in areas of end of life and recycling, as well as sustainability impacts from a packaging and logistics perspective. And I was also involved in shaping our first set of long-term goals over 2012 as well as 2030.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Fisher, and I work at NI. And at NI, we bring together the people, ideas, and technology so forward thinkers and creative problem solvers can take on humanity's biggest challenges. I work on the corporate impact team, which is what we call CSR. And this is an exciting week for us because we just launched on Wednesday our 2030 corporate impact strategy, which we're calling Engineering Hope. And we set a variety of 15 ambitious goals around 3 different pillars. One is changing the faces of engineering and STEM, building a thriving and equitable society, and also engineering a healthy planet. So really excited to be here today and talk a little bit more about what we do.
I'm Kaisha Morton. I am currently a user experience recruiter at Google. I also lead the Women at Google Austin Social Impact Chair, and I'm excited to be here with you all today.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Heather Venard. I'm the Communications and Community Relations Manager at Silicon Labs. We're here in Austin, Texas. It's our headquarters and where we got our start. And we have a really fun mission of creating a smarter, more connected world through our products, but also what we do in a relationship with the community. So in my role, I help manage our internal communications for our global company, as well as our global philanthropy and corporate responsibility initiatives.
And thank all of you for joining us today to share your expertise and insights. Today's questions will focus on many of the pillars that we see to corporate social responsibility. Let's jump right in. Let's start with ERGs. How do you see employee resource groups playing a role at your company or more generally within CSR? And I'll throw that one to Kaisha first.
Great. So at Google, we don't have a corporate social responsibility like org or specific roles. So our employee resource groups really take that place. We receive funding from the company to lead community initiatives, to donate, and really support. And I think what I love most about that is that it really allows individuals within the company to come together and support the communities around us.
Yes, so we actually are a little bit different structure from Google. We actually have around 13 employee resource groups, and they range from identifying with generation to identifying with ethnicity. We also have some that are specifically designed for young and early career professionals. It's interesting because our Women in Action ERG used to be our largest, and for the longest time it's always been our largest ERG, but it recently got overtaken by our Planet ERG. So it's an indication that our employee base is really, really passionate about the topic of sustainability. And it's very exciting to see that overall from our team members, they really love being connected to ERGs. And we actually did some research that shows a strong correlation between career satisfaction and being engaged in an ERG. And we've, over this last year, especially, how things have been so challenging for many of us, we've really seen a pivot to how our ERGs are engaging with employees as well. So we've had some ERGs celebrating Diwali, where they actually sent coloring books to employees who registered for the webinar, and we did a story time with kids. We also did cooking classes, so that was pretty fun to see chefs come along, and we could learn how to make different things like mango lassis. And more recently, we were starting to celebrate Lunar New Year through another ERG, and you can learn about the tea ceremony, or actually create a paper lantern. And then lastly, we actually had collectively our ERGs came together, and we actually had a story time with Michael Dell, where he would read Dr. Seuss books to your kids, and he actually even opened it up to questions. So it was pretty hilarious to see all the different types of questions that a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old would throw at our founder, Michael Dell. So
that's terrific. And for any of y'all, how do you see ERGs advancing or supporting DE&I initiatives?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on that. What's interesting for us is at Silicon Labs is that we're newer in our ERG, Employee Resource Group journey. We have one longstanding ERG, which is our women's group. And we also have exciting launching next week, a brand new ERG that I have to keep under wraps until we're ready to launch for our employees. However, what's been fascinating is in a year, 2020, of increased conversations around racial justice and social equity, ERGs have become more important now than ever, because employees are understanding that they can be a safe space for conversations, to create community, to make connections, and also look at advocacy and how they can internally and externally help positively improve the communities in which they live and work. So for us, as we've kind of expanded and developed on our diversity, equity, inclusion journey, having ERGs, encouraging them, and having now a structure where employees can investigate and create new ERGs has really been vital, especially in a virtual environment. And I'll say a quick thing is that I think a lot of folks are like, wow, how can you create an employee resource group where everybody's working from home? Now is kind of the best time to do it, because we're all globally connected, especially if you have a global company or you're nationally connected. This is the time to use these resources like we're doing right now, talking on Zoom, and connect employees worldwide on things that they care about.
Great point. I happen to know about some technology that could also help in that regard too.
Yes, and we utilize that, Ashley, so thank you.
Thank you.
I can talk a little bit about how DEI plays a role in ERGs or vice versa at Google. So our ERGs were actually founded or established with DEI in mind. As many people probably know, tech is historically not extremely diverse. And so at Google, the first employee resource groups that popped up were, they're all identity based, but started primarily by minorities within the company. So there's the Black Google Network, which I'm a part of. I mentioned earlier on, I helped to lead Women at Google. And we've found that these employee resource groups are so important because they allow us to create community globally, as Heather mentioned. So I know Black Google Network members that sit in the Boulder office because we have our site chapters, but we also are able to connect across chapters. And it helps to make large companies feel smaller too, right? We were able to start networking with people who look like us, but also to have a home in a unique place that maybe we don't have on our teams because we sit on teams with people that we don't necessarily identify with. And I think, as I mentioned before, in terms of supporting community initiatives, it also provides us with opportunities to have our companies show up in parts of the community that maybe are unexpected or historically we haven't shown up in. So the Black Googler Network typically tries to do community-related events in historically Black neighborhoods with maybe even historically Black churches. The Women at Group, when we meet and when we do community events, we try really hard to make sure that they are women and young girls focused. And so DEI, again, just plays a huge role in our employee resource groups.
Vital. Yes, thank you. All right, let's move on to our next area of focus here. Grants in STEM, and specifically, how do you see international grants expanding, particularly as it relates to STEM? Julie?
Sure. So I think through last year, we learned a lot through COVID and how we want to expand our grants. And what we did is we made a $1 million contribution to the Altogether ATX Fund here in Austin. But this was also an opportunity to expand our international grant making and open it up. And we donated 1.5 globally to all of our different sites. But we really wanted to operate on a live here, give here approach. So that $1.5 million spanned across 12 different sites. And it was a great opportunity to meet with each specific site leader and site champions and tell them about our strategy and how they can engage with their local community. And a lot of them already had relationships, but we were excited to put some dollars around that and give them some money to donate to either COVID-19 relief or STEM. Because of those 12 global sites, they were at all very different parts of the process with COVID or with STEM. So we thought those were the two main buckets that we could encourage them to participate and give money to the community. And we saw just a lot of really great community building and also building trust with our employees and then wanting to engage and give back and volunteer. So we hope that was just the beginning of the relationships that we have with our strategic philanthropy globally.
Thank you. Any others?
I'd love to jump on something that Julie said and really sort of, as they say, plus one it. But this concept of partnering locally, right? Talking to your local teams. I know that's something that NI does so well, and we do that at Silicon Labs too. And what's fascinating about it is that you really start to understand what are the commonalities throughout your organization. Again, if you do have a global organization, or what are sort of the unique local needs. And we did this more like just focused on COVID specific grants in our global sites, but saying, you tell us who are your partners locally who are making the biggest impact in COVID or like COVID and STEM. Have conversations, let's have a dialogue. And the other thing that we did was, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about how to get employees involved, is bring these options to your employees and have them vote on them. So you have couple options of ways that you can direct funds in your community, pull your employees in to get their opinions and perspective. And it's a great way to kind of understand how they're engaged. But I think as we get global, right, and we're also focused on technology, the personal and the direct connection to communities that Julie brought up, I think that's so critical, whether it's here in Austin or it's a site halfway around the world. It's just absolutely should be part of your process.
Well, then, Heather, you teed up perfectly our next topic, which will be empowering employees.
Yes, it's funny. I didn't plan that, but let's pretend like I did. Let's pretend like I did plan that.
That's right.
Okay, cool. So the thing about, I think, giving, whether it's you're directing you're as a company directing grants out to community organizations, whether you're helping your employees get volunteer opportunities, it's all about a couple key things. You have to stick to your core values, right? You have to know what your company's good at, and you have to talk to and listen to your employees. And I think if you add all three of those things together, so you try to do something that's not outside of who you are as a company or what's important to you, but then you're directly listening to your employees, that automatically creates opportunity and spaces for greater engagement. What we've done is at Silicon Labs is we've kind of hit on this in a couple pieces. We empower our employees by giving them 24 hours of paid volunteer time off per year that they can use for either company-sponsored activities or they can use for personal activities, and then they log them in a little tool called Your Cause. And we also give them, in the US, we empower our employees with $2,000 per year in matching contributions to charitable donations that they make. And then beyond just the individual employee level, we do a couple things to really encourage that engagement and to empower our employees. One is a board service program where we empower all employees throughout the stack to, if they want to give their personal time and talents to serve on a nonprofit board, we provide them a grant in relationship to that board service opportunity and provide additional training and experiences, because we recognize that board service is not only super beneficial for the nonprofit, but for the employee too, in developing their leadership skills and how they function as a team at work. So we do that. And then we also really ask our employees locally at all of our global sites, how do they want to get involved? We let all of our sites outside of headquarters, we give them a budget and they make decisions. Where I kind of referenced it earlier, where they come up with a couple ideas, we vet them, and then we go ahead and poll the employees and say, where do you want to give your funding based on these pre-vetted organizations? We also really encourage them to self-start volunteer opportunities, kind of run them through us for a gut check, but also just say, what are you passionate about? And an example that I can give here in Austin, I think this is sort of a kind of like a real through line to how this works. Got two specific nonprofits experiences I would want to call out. One is we have adopted, quote unquote, or have a partner school, which is Morton Middle School, which is about 1.5 miles from our office. And what we've done is we've focused on one school and we've connected multiple opportunities for our employees to get engaged, whether it's mentoring through organizations like Seedling or API, working directly with the administration at the school to help support programs, and even partnering with the Family Resource Center to be able to provide gifts for families in need at the holidays, provide meals and educational experiences for parents. And this is an underserved school and underserved population. So by getting our employees able to volunteer in multiple different ways, affecting one population maximizes the impact. So that's kind of one example that's sort of centralized on a specific school and that many employees can get involved in. So I always encourage, find a theme, find a way to get there and give your employees options. And on the flip side, another way that we approach this is find organizations that your employees are passionate about and they really want to connect with. We have a long-standing relationship with Koja College, and I know others on this call do as well, which is an organization that helps empower students of diverse backgrounds to get into the STEM fields. And we did some programs with them. We had 1 or 2 high school interns, but they were so good at kind of providing opportunities for employees to get engaged. About 8 months ago, I had a group of employees come to me and say, so we really love what they're doing. It's important to us personally and as a company and our values. Can we meet every 2 weeks and run our engagement with them and create a structure that we can start hiring 10 high school interns every summer? And we want to make this happen. And I think everybody on the call can say, whether you're in ERG or you're in CSR, when employees come to you and say they want to do the work, yes, you know that this is an incredible opportunity and you want to harness that employee passion and say, yes, let us give you the opportunity. Let's not just throw out the rule book. Let's help you actually create a new set of guiding parameters, and we'll work together to make sure those are authentic to who we are, to our values and our core pillars. Long way to say, if you find things that make employees passionate, if you stick to who you are, and you really drive to your values and the things that work for you as a company, you're going to find incredible opportunities to get employees not just involved, but truly engaged.
I'm not going to try to one-up you here, but we also do some of the same programs. So I love the fact that, and I think you'll probably find it among all of our groups here. I absolutely believe in what you said in terms of it's about creating the passion, right? And finding where employees, what employees are interested about, and then leveraging that passion and harnessing it. And much like you, we have a matching program as well. And we actually, each team member can match up to $10,000 per year. And in 2019, I know, I know, it's a lot. And in 2019, we actually donated $9.1 million through our team members. And then in order to try to incentivize a culture of volunteering, we encourage people to log their hours, and a great tool we also use called Your Cause. And where every quarter, if you log 10 volunteer hours as a team member, you receive a $150 volunteer reward card that you can donate to the charity of your choice within the platform. So it's another way of really encouraging people to get involved. And the beauty of it is the employees are already doing this work, right, with the charities, already volunteering in some way. And this is just another way of helping the charity that they love. And they are, we, in addition to having more strategic charities that we partner with from a giving program, we also have nonprofits at a local community level so that it can feel very personal, right, to the employee in their community. And then one other thing I'll mention on this topic around employee engagement is this notion of what Heather talked about. Because we are all virtual, in some ways people think it might be more challenging to actually have the volunteer events, right, because we're not all together as much, but there are amazing opportunities online too for virtual volunteering. So there is a site called Career Village where team members can answer questions for young people who are interested in asking questions about, you know, future careers or college and how they, you know, select college. So it's really cute to see some of the questions that come through. In addition, there's another volunteering opportunity through a platform called Zooniverse, where actually I've done this with my children, where you can pick different science projects and help them identify data and classify data. So just some really great opportunities to get your team member involved and really, you know, to think creatively, because we all are all home.
One more thing I'd like to add in terms of it kind of dovetails off of a previous topic as well is with the grant making in the ERGs and employee engagement, in that we are really trying to be more equitable in our grant making process. Instead of just our small team of 3 to 5 employees who are kind of always around this work, always looking to the ERGs for their input as well. So once we have received all of our applications, having a representative from the ERGs to actually look over those applications as well, just to get another set of eyes to make sure that we're staying very accountable to our DEI goals. So we're really excited to leverage that new review process this year to make sure that they can help us achieve our goals in the community.
I hadn't heard that. That's terrific, Julie. Thank you. Okay, let's jump to our next topic on virtual volunteering and skills-based volunteering. Due to COVID, virtual volunteering has grown exponentially, as we all know, and we're seeing tremendous growth in skills-based volunteering also. How do you see these areas changing CSR? I'll open that up for anyone.
All right, I guess I'll start, Ashley. So I touched a little bit on some of the virtual volunteering opportunities. So I'll talk a little bit more about the skill-based volunteering. So we actually have a program that launched recently that is administered by our HR department, and it's called Opportunity Marketplace. And what this does is allow team members to fill in a skills profile and areas of interest. And then what happens is different business units or programs or teams can enter in a gig. And a gig is usually a shorter term opportunity. You know, it's usually 1 quarter, could be even shorter than that, where the team member is able to apply their skills with their interests. So we have, as you can imagine, there are a number of Dell team members who are interested in CSR and working on the CSR team, but we are a very small but resourceful team, but we always could use help. So what we've been able to do is like enter in, you know, projects where we need assistance and we just don't have, you know, the bandwidth to do, and it gets matched with a Dell team member who's interested in that opportunity. So it's across all Dell team members. Another program that we implemented last year is called Tech Pro Bono. And this is a really cool curated volunteering experience where the Dell team members can also lend their time and skills to nonprofits around the world. And the reason we created this program is because we've done some research and we've found that about 96% of nonprofits are experiencing barriers to digital transformation, and 42% of nonprofit leaders fear that they'll be left behind. So we recognize that this journey of digital transformation is going to require a lot of resources, but just a lot of time and skills to devote to that. So we created a goal to help 1,000 nonprofits by 2030 as part of our Progress Made Real commitment. And there are a couple of different ways where team members can engage. You could do a consulting workshop, which is just like a 1-day, 8-hour, very intensive short-term engagement with a nonprofit that is looking for a specific challenge to address. So one of it could be, I don't know how to engage in social media. I don't have a plan for what to do, or maybe I don't have the bandwidth. And so we'll get some social media experts to come in. Or it could be, I don't know how to run Microsoft Office 365 and I need some help figuring out how to do that. And then secondly, our other component is tech pro bono projects, which are really cool longer term consulting projects that could run up to 6 months. And it's a collaborative with a nonprofit partner that's identified, bigger challenge that they want to address. And one example of this is we partnered with the United Nations Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund. And we did a couple of things. One is we actually helped them implement a Microsoft Office platform and help them train on how to manage that and then onboard the 300 users. And this actually created the basis for a platform for engaging grassroots women's organizations. It's designed with accessibility in mind. And through the platform, women are able to share, they're focused on peace building, and they're able to share best practices, collaborate, do some learning and training. And it's really aimed at preventing conflict as well as gender-based violence. So it's a great example of bringing our great mind share that we have within our companies and really devoting it to a specific cause.
Yeah, I think because we are now in a virtual setting, companies, especially global companies, have a unique opportunity to support initiatives across the world. So our Women at Google global group had a conference yesterday called Transcend for women who identified as women of color across all of our sites. And part of the beauty of this in terms of volunteering and impact is that we could highlight organizations and volunteer opportunities that we wanted to support. And so I learned about something in Brazil that I'm really excited to volunteer and support moving forward. And I think that from this time, we will be able to continue to support initiatives across the globe.
Thank you, Kaisha.
I would say one thing that we have learned from volunteer opportunities in order to really engage participation is that it's really nice to schedule it as a specific event, because I think it's easy to throw out a variety of opportunities like, oh, this is an open-ended invitation to do XYZ. But if someone within the team is willing to schedule it and kind of coordinate what that looks like, it's been very successful to increase participation. Because I think oftentimes we see an open invitation and you flag it and you're like, oh, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. And then you end up not getting to it. And so I think what we have done for a couple of different occasions and nonprofit partners is for someone to lead the activity and facilitate it, talk a little bit more about the organization, make sure that everyone has the different supplies that they need, and kind of go about it that way. And it's been great to kind of have that dialogue as well, to learn about the organization, in addition to sharing any follow-up information after. But it's been nice to kind of have it on the calendar, have that accountability, and to learn as a group and take in that experience, whether it's watching a video, writing cards, virtual mentoring. But I think that after the participation, it's really helpful to debrief what you've learned and kind of what those next steps are to increase engagement.
Yeah, the other thing I would just want to jump in and say about virtual and skills-based volunteering, especially in the past year in a more virtual environment, I mean, completely echoing everything Kaisha, Erika, and Julie have said, and love all these ideas that I'm getting too. So thank you to all of you. I think what's been interesting is you start to figure out what works and what doesn't work, right? and also depends on what team you're applying an opportunity to. So I think the guide with virtual and skill-based opportunities is be flexible. Whether you work at a company where you're doing this or you work for a nonprofit that's providing these opportunities, be flexible in the sense that something that you try may not work for a specific group of employees. So I'll give you a perfect example. Engineering company, we have had some great virtual volunteering opportunities or kind of virtual engagements like a lunch and learn where you learn about a nonprofit. And our employees are super engaged, like, great, this is fantastic. I learned about the mission. I learned about what they do. Okay, what can I do? What's next? You have to have a what's next. And they're like, how? What's the process? What's the way that I can get involved? Because we have an incredible group of employees who are engineers by trade and who want to do process improvement and think outside the box and make something better. So thinking about how you we've been talking about this all along, how you harness that excitement, engagement, and skill set, to be willing to pivot, be willing to, if something doesn't work, try something new. And I think that's really kind of a lot of what 2020 was in general, but specifically when it comes to skills-based volunteering or virtual volunteering, it's okay if you try something and it doesn't work. And I would say this to anybody who works at a nonprofit who's also on the panel, be really honest. If you're here in this group today and you're a nonprofit and you're working with a for-profit company, be really honest with the company about what's within your bandwidth. If they have this great idea and you have this great idea, but you don't have the team to do it or the infrastructure, ask for the funding for the infrastructure or say, hey, this may not work for us right now because we have other priorities, but let's maybe do something else. So I think in everything with this, it's being willing to pivot and adjust, being honest about what works for you, your employees, your nonprofit organization, and realizing that if something doesn't work exactly right the first time, you have an opportunity to change it for the next time. And as Julie said, and I really love that you pointed this out, Julie, was making these opportunities accessible and easy to join, right? Making them pinpointed, making them targeted. Like Kaisha, like it's relating it to your local company and your ERGs and your affinity groups and making sure that there's a connection there that really, picks up engagement. And Erika, I love what you said about providing a platform for employees to be able to plug in their skills. All of these are fantastic ideas. And I really hope that everyone on the call today kind of takes them back and says, hey, either I work at a nonprofit or I'm a private funder, or I work at a company that has these, and just start to implement them. Just throw the spaghetti at wall, see what sticks.
Great advice. I love it. And speaking of pivoting, let's take some questions here from the Q&A box. Okay, so have you noticed either an uptick or decline in motivation for community outreach from your employees? Is it harder to motivate them with the distractions of working from home? Throw that out there for whoever wants to take it.
I'm happy to.
I'm actually, oh yeah, go ahead, Julie, you go first.
Sure. Okay. So I think that people are hungry to do something. And as much as people want to be out safely or interacting with the community, I think that people are eager to do something that potentially they would have done before pre-COVID. So I think the ability to have very creative virtual volunteer opportunities is imperative, because I know people are sick of being on screens and Zoom fatigue. So I know I messaged earlier, really having that set time to have those activities, but also it's really important to have that flexibility. And I think the ability to engage your family or the other people within your household, because everyone is looking for a variety of different things to do. And if we can provide opportunities that engage their kids in learning about the community and different issues, whether that be DEI or CSR, I think we've also seen some success with that in our offerings, and that like, oh, that's awesome. I can involve my kids in writing letters to the community. So I think being flexible and offering opportunities, but also people are just really hungry to do good. And so really just trying to offer a wide range of opportunities for all people to get involved.
Yeah, Julie, I'll just add to that, and I love what you said, because it's totally true. I mean, if anything, we're seeing more requests for engagement, and we're needing to provide more opportunities than we have before. So I think it's just a great increase. And I think part of it is, this is not scientific or backed by any research, just my own opinion, but I think that part of it is that, we're all at home working. We, whatever our family dynamics are, whether kids, which you saw one of mine, whether it's fur babies or, caring for elderly relatives, we all have things going on in our personal lives, but this kind of blurring between work and personal, I think, has increased. So the need to also provide resources that are centered around self-care, I think are really important. And one of the things that I've observed in this uptick of ways to increase engagement or provide, virtual opportunities for our team members is, I believe it's more balanced to try to address the whole of the employee versus before, when we were all on campus, I'd go to an ERG, it was very much, a topic was very much centered to me as a professional or a team member belonging to that particular topic. And now it's completely opened up, and I love that. So, and I hope that continues even if life goes back to whatever normal is.
Yeah, I think I've seen, because 2020 was a year where so many things in this country, like politics aside, were just illuminated. We are seeing employees push everyone to get engaged more than us. Like, they're just so hungry to see change in our country that we don't really feel the need to push as ERG leaders, or probably in CSR roles. Employees are reaching out to us, providing opportunities and wondering if there are ways that they can share different ways to make change in the community and to have an impact. And I think another thing that has come along with just all that 2020 was for so many of us is that our companies are starting to see, or at least I can speak for mine, the need to show up outside of just this bubble of CSR, right? And I personally hope that more companies continue to do that, so that we can just be a better country.
Yeah, Kaisha, I love that you brought that up. I think, and I know everybody uses different terms, right? So we've been talking about CSR, corporate social responsibility today. We call it corporate responsibility. But I think I love what you were saying about sort of this beyond the box concept, because I think that really gets to a concept called, social impact. And it's all the ways, what are you doing from a CSR level? What are you doing from an environmental, social, and governance level with your investors? What are you doing from a public policy and public affairs level? What is your executive level of conversation? And all of that kind of comes in this big bubble where, to your point exactly, they're not discrete concepts or agencies or organizations within your company. They're completely connected, and all of it comes together, and there needs to be a lot of alignment to be able to create the best, most cohesive social impact that a company can make. And I think that's a change we've really seen over the this past year. And a lot of my colleagues at other companies have said, like, hey, I'm interacting cross-departmentally more than I ever have before, because we understand when we talk about, for example, diversity, equity, inclusion, that's an HR conversation, and it's internal policy conversation, it's educational, so it's learning and development, it's corporate social responsibility as far as volunteering and giving, it's our social media team and how we talk about things, it's the lexicon we use, especially in tech, that may have terminology that's no longer appropriate with, within our current world. And it's, if you actually kind of pull back a little bit, you look, oh my gosh, almost every single, if not every single part of your company, from the product that you create to the way that you run your business, is now all involved in these conversations. And I think it's that sort of through line in everything that we do that's making for really exciting innovation and change in space, and sort of changing what corporate social responsibility is at its very core.
Do your companies have programs to help interested employees serve on the board of local nonprofits? And if so, what is the process to explore?
Yeah, I could real briefly touch on ours because I know I mentioned it earlier. We've kind of moved from sort of a, this is always something that's happened really organically from our executives through all of our employees, where we would just sort of say, oh, you're really interested in this, let me know. It's happened through the community, and we'll go ahead and make sure we can provide you with the appropriate grant and kind of help steward your experience. I think now it's becoming more formalized for us. We're doing quarterly trainings around philanthropy at the company with a big focus on board service. Still at this point, I know at Silicon Labs, the way that I would say is you reach out to me. I would say that, which I don't know, we're all kind of laughing, we're like, it's the one person, but you probably reach out to me. And I can tell you that if your organization probably aligns with our kind of core pillars of STEM and education, critical community need, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think those are probably the ones that we'd be able to have the best conversation about. However, internally, we do have a process that we've created to assist our employees kind of not match with, but investigate these opportunities. So for us, at least at Silicon Labs, I'm probably your person, but I do know that we have quite a few employees who are looking for board opportunities. And what I'll say with that is, I always say to them, if you're an employee who's looking to join a board, you have to consider three things. Are you passionate about the mission? Are you connected to it? What are you going to give to the nonprofit board by serving? And what are you going to get from the experience? So I would highly recommend that any organization, nonprofit organization that is coming to either Silicon Labs or another company that has a nonprofit board service program is really be very clear. Are you looking, what are the parameters of the person serving you're looking for? What are the needs that you have as a board? Do you need someone who's great in real estate? Do you need someone who's fantastic with numbers? Do you need somebody who's great with change management and strategic planning? Be very clear with that in your ask. Be clear about the time commitment and any other parameters that you feel are important. And if you come with that information, I think you're more likely to get a really positive response.
Well said, Heather. I can speak to ours a little bit. We are formalizing ours this year, actually, but we have our current executives serving on a variety of different boards, but also wanting to make it more public throughout the company with employees of all different levels. And I can say personally, when I meet with different nonprofits, that's usually one of the questions I ask is, are there open board seats? What is the process to sit on your board? What are the qualifications? Kind of the questions that Heather mentioned. But there are a variety of different resources, of course, that we can also offer, like the Mission Capital Board Summit or trainings on what it looks like to be a good board member. So I think that I never want employees to feel intimidated that they're not ready or they don't think that they have what it takes, because I really think that you can learn about it if you have the passion to be on that board. But we want to, of course, prepare them as best as we can to serve. But Heather, I think your criteria and your checklist was great. But we're really excited this year to kind of elevate that program and making it more known throughout the entire company, and also providing some financial resources to compensate some of the match or their board dues as well.
Okay, another question then for the panel. Let me see here. Does anyone on the panel have a favorite corporate initiative or volunteer project or activity, something that has really excited you or the employees?
Well, I'm going to guess we all do. I'll do one because I'm very passionate about sustainability. So we actually organized some opportunities for our team members to do beach cleanups to try and also raise awareness around oceans health and the plastics pollution in the ocean. And that actually stemmed from an interesting opportunity that we engaged with someone who was very passionate about the ocean, set up a foundation. It was Adrian Grenier. He set up the Lonely Whale Foundation, and he came to us and said, hey, can you guys, help tackle this problem? And we thought, oh, well, we're a technology company. How do we help, play in this space? And so we had some really creative engineers design some packaging and incorporate it with ocean-bound plastics. And then out of that came all of these amazing opportunities for our team members to, create events. And we also partnered with customers. So we did beach cleanups with customers too. So it was a really great example of this one, topic kind of galvanizing and motivating employees and customers and creating benefit for our planet and especially our ocean health. So yeah, so I love that one.
Yeah, Women at Google Austin really likes partnering with Safe Austin. And one of the most exciting events that I think we've done is we held a self-defense class for women at Google. And we were able to collect donations. So folks came to lead the class for free, and we donated all of the proceeds to Safe Austin. And now it's become an event that we like to try to do annually.
I love how creative that is. That's a really, really cool idea, Kaisha. I think there's a lot of us, we're all in the panel, we're taking notes. So which is what's so great about this. It's such an awesome experience for all of us as well. One thing I wanted to bring up, we do a lot of different employee engagements. And I know I touched on some of them earlier with some of our partner organizations, both here in Austin and around the world. But I think a neat thing has been a pivot that we made in 2020 due to COVID. I mentioned we have a really great relationship with Morton Middle School and do many programs with them. And on an annual basis, we were always doing, multiple things and going to the school. And I had employees kind of just say to me, man, like we're working from home, we're not doing in-person volunteering. What do we do? They're like, we love doing this every holiday season. We provide gifts for over 20 families where we provide a basket of household goods, and we provide gifts for all the kiddos, and we provide HEB gift cards. How are we going to do that if we're working from home? And we kind of said, you know what? We're doing it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to make it contactless. We're going to make it virtual. And I won't go into the crazy specifics of it, but basically we set up employees who were receiving at their home delivered packages, which then they could wrap, pack, and quarantine for delivery to go to Morton Middle School. And so what was neat about it is that we were still able to do something that was so impactful for one of our partner organizations that meant so much to our employees around the holiday season, but we just kind of made it happen. And I'll tell you, it wasn't pretty on the back end of organizing it, but we learned so much from it. We know we can now apply this globally to a lot of our other sites. And I think what really came from it was that your core pillars are your core pillars, and your core relationships are your core relationships, regardless of where you are in the world, regardless if you're working from home. If there are organizations that your employees are passionate about that align to your values, you find a way to make it happen. And so I think that's something that so many of us have found over the past year, that you just figure out a way to do it. And I think that's going to be the real gift of this past year, and going through more of a virtual environment, and the learning that so many of us have gotten, from both an increased attachment or increased interest in social impact as like a larger sort of concept, but then also how can you take the thing that you've always done, flip it, invert it, change it, and make it work and still support the organizations you're proud of. So I think that's the thing that I would say that I'm really excited for our employees over this past year, is how they've been able to change how we do things to still make an impact.
I guess I'm the last one to go on this topic. The one that I would love to mention is the opportunity that I think was really successful for us was with Foundation Communities for our holiday outreach campaign. There was a new community about only a mile away from NI, Waterloo Terrace, and we had a variety of different opportunities of ways that we could engage with them. So employees could create welcome home baskets. So that could mean them ordering everything offline, or if they are going shopping into wherever, they could collect that and then they could drop it off at NI and we would deliver that for them. Or similar to what I mentioned earlier, and having a specific event, they had a video that they sent to us that we could show employees. So we would watch it and then debrief, talk about it, and then write letters to the new residents of Waterloo Terrace. So I think it was a nice opportunity where we could do things of different, for everyone who have different levels of comfort, whether that's just writing letters, sending money to provide welcome home supplies for the residents, or buying the physical goods themselves and delivering it. So I think it was nice that, depending on wherever you are or your level of comfort, you could do a variety of different things. But it was a great way for them to kind of learn about Foundation Communities through this video, learning about their residents. And then hopefully that's just the beginning of their interest in that organization.
So many inspiring ideas. We have so many great questions coming in. I will remind the audience that if we do not get to your question, please email us at contact@impactaustin.org, and we will do our best to get in touch with our panelists. All right, one question perhaps is all we have time for. Let me go to this one. Working for tech companies where the employee base typically isn't as diverse, how are you tapping into the total employee population that isn't just the ERG groups driving much of the CSR?
Great question. I'm happy to start. So I think because of the virtual world, it has really provided an opportunity on we use Microsoft Teams, so on our Teams channels. And so we have a variety of different communities inside NI, and then of course all the different departments. So I think the ability to share different posts within each channel and across all different channels. So what's nice is we can post something in an ERG, for example, and then really easily share that in another community. And so hopefully just the ability to really quickly share that, it can gain traction and more attention in other ways, where prior to that, you might see an email, but then, of course you get a zillion emails. So I think, having everyone on this central platform, there's just more opportunities to share and get engaged.
Yeah, I think an important thing to name for our ERGs is that while they are affinity groups, allies are always welcome to join. And so whenever one of the employee resource groups puts on an event or leads something, that doesn't necessarily mean it's someone within that affinity group who is doing most of the lifting. With that being said, each ERG usually shares their opportunity, similar to what Julie said, with the larger office or even across sites, so that people can attend, and vice versa happens. So people outside of ERGs often share opportunities or come to Women at, since that's one I've spoken about, with suggestions or ideas.
Yeah, Kaisha, we do the same thing too, where there's a lot of inner ERG collaboration. So they're always cross-promoting opportunities and events, and heavily promoted within internal communications to the entire Dell team member base. So it's really, really inclusive opportunities.
Yeah, I'd like to just tie off on something that both Erika and Kaisha just said. Erika, using the internal communications of your company to really leverage these opportunities, and Kaisha, that focus on allyship, which is, or in some companies it's allyship, in some companies they call it activists. It just kind of depends on your terminology, but that really core understanding that while employee resource groups are there as a place for conversation for a specific community as a start, they are conversations that need to happen throughout the whole entire company. And making sure that all are welcome is such a core piece of employee resource groups, and how they can really drive both corporate social responsibility conversations and larger DEI conversations across the whole entire company. So I would say one of the ways to make sure that opportunities are not just quoted like stuck in the silo of an ERG is, like Erika said, using internal comms. Kaisha said like Leon allyship, and Julie, I know you all have a fantastic network at NI as well. But I think it's also tying your ERGs to your larger diversity, equity, inclusion, or DEI&B story. And so making sure that it's a part of your conversation, your activity set, the more that you sort of kind of cross promote in all of your different ways of communication throughout your company and all your different activities, you're going to see greater cross-functional engagement across a company. So it's you're making sure that you're constantly thinking of ways to sort of bridge gaps and make connections, whether it's learning and development, whether it's volunteering, whether it's executive conversation, to constantly uplift and up-level these opportunities company-wide.
Okay, we have time for at least one more question. Let me jump to this one. I'm curious how you have brought community-focused topics to your group. Specifically, have you brought and highlighted ImpactAustin to your community?
So within our women's ERG, most specifically, we have a community pillar. And especially with this track and all these amazing free opportunities, I've posted it there in hopes that people, look at the website and see all the great offerings. But definitely just keeping this top of mind for, employees who are interested in, taking that next step with their philanthropy or their personal passions. So I think definitely just continuing to plug ImpactAustin as a place where people can get more involved. That's just one way that we have tried to introduce it to our specifically women's ERG.
Yeah, like Julie, short answer is yes. We have an internal newsletter that we actually send from Women at each month, where we allow people to highlight community initiatives or other orgs that they participate or are involved with. So that's one way, and we share that with the Women at community as well as the greater office site.
The one thing I'll jump in on is I was really excited in conversations with ImpactAustin about education. They're doing not just this whole entire series, but specific to board service. And I think these are conversations that we'll continue to have with our employees. We've shared this whole entire continuum of events with them on our internal networks, but I love the opportunity to be able to really sink in on these core topics that we're talking about as a group today, and we'll continue to share those out with our employees.
I'll just echo what everyone has said. Is absolutely the opportunities for us to promote that and to get involved. So,
ladies, y'all are brilliant at what you do, and you've shared so many tremendous insights, tips, ideas, inspirational stories. I can't thank y'all enough. So in wrapping up today, thank you all for attending. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to ImpactAustin and to all of our sponsors, and for all those who attended. We've really enjoyed this hour, which I knew would fly by. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.